Hey everyone, this is a 2001 Lexus GS430, and this video today is about headlamp moisture or condensation in your headlamps. For a few months I noticed that condensation was building up only in the driver's side headlamp in both the low beam, and the high beam casing, but there was no moisture buildup on the driver's side. We've had this car up for about 10 years in the family, and I've never experienced this problem before. So I did some research and I went to a few websites and so on. And some websites were saying that it's normal for some condensation to build up in these headlights, but I don't think that's normal for this car. We've had this car for about 10 years in the family, and that's never been the case. And I don't think that for this particular car, I can say with almost 100% certainty that headlamp condensation is not normal. If it happens, or put it this way, if the condensation does not evaporate within like 30 minutes of driving or 1 hour of exposure to the sunlight, then something is wrong. Why this thing was leaking, why there was condensation buildup, there are about 4 reasons why it could happen. The first reason is that there could actually be a crack from like a stone chip or an accident on the outside of your lens cover. There could be a stone chip or a crack, and that will allow moisture or condensation to enter. And the second reason is that there is a cap. There's a cap on the back of the HID bulb. If you can see it there, there's a cap. It looks like this. This cap has a rubber O-ring. The rubber O-ring could be so old that it has cracks on the ring, which allows moisture to enter. So I changed that because that was an easy fix. I tried that, and moisture continued to accumulate in the headlight after doing that. So that wasn't a problem. I kind of played around a bit with the air vents. There's an air vent below the high beam light bulb, and there's an air vent below the HID light bulb. It looks like a straw that's bent, and like an elbow bent straw. It faces downward. I kind of messed around with that to see if that could be the problem, but the moisture continued to accumulate in the headlight. So the last thing I checked were the seals. So if you imagine this is your headlight, like this little flashlight is your headlight. There's a seal that goes all around the diameter of the headlight. It's a seal between the housing and the lens cover, and it's usually right about here on the headlamp. I checked that. Now what I did was I looked at the passenger side. And if you notice, the seal is pretty intact on the passenger side. If you pull it back a little bit, there's a rubber sealing there, and there's no gap. So when I looked at the passenger side, which does not leak or did not leak, the seal seems to be intact. But when I looked at the driver's side, you can't see it now because I covered it up with silicone. When I looked at the driver's side, I noticed that the seal, there's like a rubber gasket seal, like a silicone gasket seal. It was actually exposed, and there was a gap between the lens cover and the headlight casing. So all I did was I didn't want to take out the headlamp, because you're supposed to take out the headlight. The best way to do it is to take out the headlamp and clean it up and reseal the lens cover with the casing. But on this particular car, to take out the headlamp, you actually have to remove the bumper. And I said, okay, you know what? I don't want to do that right now. That's going to be a lot of work, and I hate taking things off an old car because things tend to crack when you mess with an old car. So all I did was I took this mono silicone clear seal, and I resealed the top of the headlight, just the top, because I couldn't get to the bottom because you'd have to take out the headlight, of course. So I just resealed the top. It doesn't look too pretty, but I just applied a nice thick strip of silicone seal to the top where the lens cover meets the housing of the headlight. And actually that worked. That actually worked. So that did the job. And I took it to the car wash a few times. It's been raining a few times. And since then, there's been no condensation in my headlights. So if you're having this problem, just apply some, what you could do is try applying some silicone seal just to the top part of where the lens cover meets the casing. There's a gap, and in my case, I could actually clearly see that the seal was broken. This headlight is 20 years old, so it's gonna happen at some point. I mean, it lasted 20 years, so you know what? That's a good amount of time. So, anyways, I hope this video helps, and thanks for watching. Sorry, I forgot to mention, before you apply the silicone between the casing and the headlight lens, clean up the area. I used some Varsol paint thinner and just some paper towel, and I cleaned up all the grease because it won't stick, obviously, if there's grease and grime. Cleaned up well. I used a bit of soapy water as well, and this paint thinner, and then that will allow the silicone to stick onto the seal. Thanks, guys.